What is going on, guys? Dublar back here with another Diablo 3 Season 10 Patch 2.5.0 video. This time, I want to do something a bit different and follow up on a comment that I made in the CoE Wizard GR Push video. If you haven't watched that video, I'll link it here and in the details. In this video, I commented on the possibility of a solo CoE Hydra build. I've now done a bit of research and played a few of the top builds that incorporate the CoE into the Hydra build, and I've come to a conclusion. For the purposes of this video, I'll wrap up some of the more promising builds that I came across, and then we'll talk about the viability of the CoE in the solo Hydra builds. So moving into the builds, since this is not a build guide, I'm not going to cover the builds in depth. I'll give you a quick overview of the ones that I came across, and then we'll move on. The most promising builds that I came across were almost identical to the popular Push GR build. That's no surprise at all though, because of how strong that build is. Mainly, they only switch out a few items and try to leave the original build as intact as possible, while also allowing for the use of Hydras. With that said, the most important switch is to actually incorporate Hydras into the build. This is usually done by switching Black Hole Spellsteal over to the Lightning Hydra. Other variations of the build also switch out either the Starfire or the Aetherwalker for the Serpent Sparker. This allows for the extra Hydra to be cast. When using the Aetherwalker, we can leave Ancient Parthan Defenders on. However, if we take the Aetherwalker off, we can substitute Ashnagar's Bloodbraces in for the shield buff, or Lacunae Prowlers in for the attack speed. And that's pretty much it. From my understanding, these builds are meant to be played almost exactly like the CoE GR Push build, with the exception of the Hydras. Personally, the one I found most viable was only switching in the Hydras and leaving everything else as is, but there are problems with this. Now, although these switches do not seem invasive, they actually have quite an impact on our damage output. Losing Starfire costs us the additional 60% damage increase, and alternatively, losing the Aetherwalker has a massive impact on our mobility and renders APDs useless, which has a huge impact on our toughness. For skills, losing Black Hole Spellsteal leaves us down the additional 3% damage per stack that we could have acquired. In a build that relies so heavily on dealing as much damage as possible within a short 5-second window, these are major impacts. In addition to this, it's widely believed that mantled/paralysis procs can only come from a single source at a time. Meaning, if your Hydra's proc mantled heal, you won't be able to proc simultaneously from another source, like your Archon beam. I want to stress that this is unsubstantiated, and in some cases, some of the more prominent guys in the testing community have refuted this. However, if this is the case, it has major effects on the possibility for a CoE Hydra build. The main reason being that Hydras only hit a single target, and since they possibly interfere with Archon procs, it's suggested not to use them on large groups. Since the CoE builds rely on stacking as many enemies as possible before the lightning rotation, our Hydras would barely be brought out. This lowers the overall value of Hydras to the build, especially when you account for the fact that the skill they are replacing is beneficial much more often. Because of this, the possibility of a CoE Hydra build is severely decreased. This is quite a disappointment because of how well Hydras work when they're proccing. You can see how quickly they tear through single targets like the Rift Guardian in this video. I was also personally optimistic that we would have a second build capable at rivaling the top build just for the sake of variety. But due to either the strange mantled proc mechanics or the toughness losses, it does not seem like Hydra will be the ticket to this. With that said, the current CoE push build did not come out until well into last season, so it's not entirely out of the question that a new build will come out. Anyways guys, that pretty much wraps up this video. If you learned anything from this video, hit that like button or stop by the comments and let me know. Also, if you have another CoE Hydra build that you're testing or any other builds that you'd like to see, I'd like to know about that in the comments as well. And don't forget to get subscribed to know about my latest D3 content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.